Using a cycle lane around what looked like a rather large obstacle.
Gets his head down, he's in a time trialing position.
This is the Domestiques, presented by Black Sheep Cycling.
We are back. Welcome to you wherever you're listening to us around the world. The Domestiques are back for episode 4. It's Wednesday, July the 6th, and it really is so good to have you on board. I can tell you that we are receiving a lot of feedback from you, the listener, the viewer, and we thank you for tuning in to this inaugural pilot series, I guess you could call it, where we talk everything that's current in the world of cycling. And I've got to say, there's a true international flavour about the Domestiques in this episode. Our team captain, Matilda Reynolds, is in New Zealand. Tills, what's happening over there?
Morning, Mike. Yeah, just trying to catch up on what was a very, very exciting stage last night. So, yeah, a little bit chilly here compared to what the guys are experiencing. But, yeah, it's always a bit of a mad panic to wake up, watch the highlights, grab a coffee, and excited to, discuss it all with you today.
Yeah, time difference is certainly the key. We are on all corners of the planet. Hollywood, we are calling you the sprinter. Now, you've sprinted your way to the podcast today. What's happened to you? Tell us the story.
I don't want to bore people, but I'm in Italy somewhere. I actually don't know what town I'm in. We flew into Bari and then drove an hour. It's been chaos and disorder, but to cut a long story short, I'm here and I'm pumped to talk about today's stage because I did watch it. I watched it all. It was fantastic. Yeah,
I don't understand. Italy and chaos, those two things don't go hand in hand.
Oh, well, they do today, mate.
Well, I'm in the land of Oz, and I won't be here for long because I'll be jumping on a plane very soon and travelling to the warmer climes for bike-style tours. More on that coming up in future editions of the Domestiques. Now, I'd like to ask you with the headphones on, or perhaps you're commuting to work, you're tuned into us. Where are you listening to us from? We'd like to ask you, what do you want us to talk about? Apart from, of course, the obvious, the big races that are currently taking place, give us your feedback. Tell us what you want to hear on any topic you'd like us to discuss. Well, coming up in today's podcast, we've got a very special guest. His name is Beardy McBeard. He is, as far as I'm concerned, the world's most famous cycling photographer. He's an Aussie, he's in France, and he is following the Tour. More on that coming up in the Domestiques. Well, let's kick things off now by catching up with the latest from Le Tour, where the big bike race reached home soil. Stage 4 today. The riders started from the port city of Dunkerque, made their way inland and finished on in the other port city of Calais, situated on the English Channel coast. And what we saw today was something quite extraordinary. I don't know if I should start with you, Hollywood, because you were frantic when you approached us, but I will start with you, Tills. It was incredible. The name Van Aert, the name Wout Van Aert is on everybody's lips, and what he did today was quite extraordinary.
Oh, yeah, I think we had him picked as a favourite for today's stage, but probably just not with how it played out. I think we thought potentially it might be a small bunch sprint, but yeah, what an incredible result for him to essentially rode away from the favourites on the last climb there and to drop his own teammates and keep going. I think there seemed to be a lot of chaos behind him with the sprinters. Poor old Jasper Philipsen, he thought he'd won the stage, so I just can't understand what's going on with the DS and what he was being communicated, but there seemed to be a lot of chaos behind him, and Walt was only a few seconds in front of the peloton, so I'm not sure if he just wasn't looking up. I understand how it can happen with that much chaos behind, but yeah, what an incredible win for Wout Van Aert. And there's just some insane stats that we're hearing on the amount that he's won, even in the last six stages of the Tour de France, so including last year, he's had 3 firsts and 3 seconds. That's his results for the last 6 stages. So yeah, it's incredible athlete. And we're watching, what we're witnessing at the moment. It's pretty special.
Charles, I want to ask you, as an elite champion cyclist yourself, you got yourself the leader's jersey. You move away from the peloton. There's no real need to do that, and you hang on for as long as he did and win the stage. How difficult is that? How tactical? How clever do you have to be to produce a performance like that?
Well, Mike, I might just stop you there. I don't think I'm in any type of the same sentence or an elite champion, but I will, I think it was crazy that a lot of just the way it was set up by his team. I think Pogačar was very fortunate. He was out of position that Walt didn't take two of his teammates with him and push on with the effort. And I'm not sure if GCs would have gone with him, whether he would have stayed away as well. So incredible effort, but also, sometimes just nothing you can do about it.
Hollywood, is it safe to ask you what you thought of the stage today?
Honestly, it was just so exciting to watch because Jumbo went to the front. And because all the talk was whether whether Dylan would get over the climb, because that's and they were positioning him up near the front. You could see them moving him up. He was right near the front. But then when Jumbo just went bang, they just hit the gas, and it just shattered like a glass bottle. It just was people everywhere, and they just ramped it up, crested the hill. He looked back. There was only I think it was Thomas. Yates, thank you, and his teammate, and he just went again, and then his teammate let Yates do the chasing. The elastic band snapped. He just looked beautiful, all in yellow. I was so impressed. He had matching yellow bibs today, which was just perfect. And he just went away and went bang again. And he held him off. It was just so exciting. You could not do anything but root for him. Like, I was just like, come on, stay away, stay away. It was unbelievable. It was just such a magnificent performance. It was just beautiful to watch. Champagne cycling at its best.
Well, I'm reading reports that the performance today was up there with the likes of some of the greats, Eddie Merckx, Bernard Hinault, and Wout van Aert. We are seeing an absolute legend in the making. There's no reason to suggest he could win the Tour. The guy can do anything across any discipline. Let me just remind you what the overall standings look like after stage 4. Van Aert has now extended his lead to 25 seconds over Yves Lampert. Tadej Pogačar is third. Mats Pedersen is in fourth place, 36 seconds behind, with Vingegaard in the top 5. So we've got 2 riders from Jumbo-Visma. They are looking good. I tell you what, Pogačar in third place, the favourite to win the Tour overall, is looking pretty good. The Giro Donna, Matilda, what happened today, just quickly?
Yeah, just quickly, essentially it was same results, different stage. You had Elisa Balsamo edging out Charlotte Kool and Marina Vos in third, and no real changes into GC. I am absolutely cheering for Amanda Spratt, who's sitting in 5th position. It's awesome to see Spratty back and really getting back to her champion ways. I think I'm also really interested in this story with, so Charlotte Kool is a DSM rider. She's had seconds throughout the Giro Donne, but she is the teammate of Lorena Wiebes. And she's really been struggling that she hasn't been getting that opportunity to win. So she's got that opportunity now at the Giro Donne, and she hasn't quite gotten the win. So I'm cheering for her and doesn't get many opportunities. So it'll be interesting to see if she can get up for a win. But yeah, no real changes, no changes to GC, but another good sprint by Elisa Balsamo.
All right, time to welcome in our special guest. You're listening to The Domestiques.
The Domestiques by Black Sheep Cycling.
Well, it comes as no surprise that the members of the World Cycling Fraternity are covering the world's greatest bike race, the Tour de France, and rightly so. It is the grand final of the sport. Our special guest has formed a reputation that places him among the elite when it comes to cycling photography. And take it from me, Beardy McBeard's creations are simply irresistible. He comes to us from the Tour. It's a big hello to Beardy McBeard. Another big round of applause, everyone.
Woo!
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, Beardy. It's great to have you. And tell us about the Tour so far. You've been there many times. It's been 3 years, I think, since you last jumped on a motorbike and followed those men in coloured clothing around. How is it to be back this year?
Yeah, it's good. It's been 2 years, but yeah, it feels like a really long time. And yeah, it's pretty anxious to get started and get it all happening. But no, it's nice to be here, and yeah, we got thrown in the deep end with an individual time trial to start the race, which is always, for photographers, is a big deal, because you know, you've got to photograph every rider, and it's a lot of images getting snapped all day, and then you have to do a big edit, and they started in the afternoon, so it was working late into the evening on our first day. But yeah, it was a cool stage, very beautiful city to ride around and visit. Copenhagen. Yeah, and well, the weather wasn't ideal. I felt for them a bit, because apparently it had been 12 years in the planning this Grand Depart, and it pissed down with rain, like it was biblical. So yeah, the poor riders rolling down the ramp and into some pretty treacherous conditions, because there was cobblestones, and you know, city streets in Europe, they just leach oil when it rains, and they're very slippery. So it's not ideal for racing a time trial bike on, you know, high PSI, small tyres, and yeah, I wouldn't like to do it. I think they had the heebie-jeebies so bad that Geraint Thomas even forgot to take his gilet off.
Beardy, can I ask you, this is obviously the biggest event in the world for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons, and I guess the same applies to you. What do you look for? I mean, your creations, as I said before, simply irresistible, and they are. And I mean that. You are one of the best in the world. But what do you look for? What makes your creations different to anyone else's?
Well, I've had a lot of time to look over images and think about coming back and what I'll do when I came back to the Tour de France, and I wanted to do something different and sort of change my imagery in a way to make it as unique as possible. And I guess I want to make each image as visually appealing and as spectacular as possible. I look for, you know, unique elements and compositional elements, and also lighting and action as well. So making the most dynamic and exciting photograph I can with what I'm given, as well as seeking out the best locations to showcase, you know, France and Denmark and what where the race goes and what it's about. So I guess they're the sort of things that I look for when I'm taking my photographs.
Yeah, Beardy, I've been a fan for such a long time. I remember even back before I started cycling, I actually brought a print from you in your tiny little Bondi apartment from my coach at the time. And I absolutely miss your daily blogs. So Beardy used to have this daily blog on pretty much discussing how his day unfolded. It was so dramatic, and I'd pretty much read that blog over actually watching the tour. But Beardy, I was wondering whether you could give us a bit of a snapshot of what a day in the life of Beardy McBeard looks like in trying to cover the tour, because I think you don't really think about just how challenging it is to get from one end to the other and to get that winning shot and everything that happens in between.
Yeah, sure. Well, today woke up in probably the worst hotel I've ever stayed in my life, and then went for a quick 15-minute jog, trying to do something, because it's the first year I haven't brought my bike, so I couldn't get out on the bike, but I wanted to do something. And then went to the cafe, got some croissants and had a coffee before we made our way to the start. But we did some route planning, me and my colleague Leon, who's taking photographs as well, and we decided on where we were going to be and what were possibilities to cut across the course to get in front of the riders. So our accreditation allows us to drive on the race course, but outside of the race envelope. So when we take a photograph, we stop in a spot, we wait for the riders to come past, and then we either exit the course after the race, or we follow along and then exit shortly after. And then we have to leapfrog the race, which is quite difficult, because even though cars go a lot faster than bikes, they have got a closed road, and we've got local traffic, tractors, people crossing the road, spectators, all sorts of things to contend with. So it is quite an effort to get ahead of them. So we do our route planning to try and find the best way to get around the race once we've stopped. and maximise the amount of spots. It's no point just stopping anywhere. You've got to try and find the best locations to stop. So we use Google Maps and Street View and that sort of stuff to scope out the locations and find, there might be a bridge where we could stand on and shoot from a different angle, or a beautiful cobbled street. At today's stage, there was a cobbled climb that went through a small archway into an old town, which is really, really pretty. So we marked that as our spot number one. And then we very optimistically wanted to try and get another spot soon after that, which we may or may not have got. And we tried to, but as soon as the race passes, everyone just goes out on the road. So Leon was driving and he was on the horn, pressed beep, 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 trying to clear the road as we sort of made our way through all the spectators to try and get to our other spot. And then finally the road cleared up and we got to the spot, but we were a few minutes too late and the race had already passed. But no matter, we got 3 more spots in the stage, so it wasn't that big a deal. But sometimes you just kind of try and get a bonus one where you can. So yeah, the route planning is a big part of it. Identifying what is a good spot, and then obviously making it to the finish with enough time to get the finish line shot.
And so you've been doing this for a few years. What's like one day that really sticks out to you as just a bit of a shit show, nothing went right, but you got there in the end?
Well, probably the worst day was when it was actually the last stage of the 2018 Tour de France. And we've been driving around France crazily for like 5,000-6,000 kilometres. It was a lot of transfers that year. And we were just coming into Paris to park in the thing, and I had a guy driving for me, Alvaro, a Spanish guy, and we're just turning. I said, "Oh, you missed the turn," and he turned a bit too late, and we just smashed into a pole and destroyed the front half of the car. And Skoda had lent us the car for the race. Fortunately, we took the tyre off, which was punctured, and we put a space saver on, and we managed to get to the stage, and we shot it all, and had to sheepishly take it back at the end of the race and say oops, and they did a nice invoice for me. It was like €5,000, gave it to me, and I was like, but we didn't have to pay, so that was nice. But that was a pretty bad day and left us pretty shaken up. And after such a long we drive pretty much at the limit of what you can do on streets to get to the spots. It is pretty hair raising at times. So to get through it unscathed and then have that happen at the end was pretty sad.
Oh, you guys aren't getting like a VIP transfer or anything like that. You had to do the 900Ks rest day, travel day yesterday?
Yeah, we had a 900K lovely transfer ride. Unfortunately, in the Netherlands, they decided that they were going to have a little strike, and the farmers were all going to drive their tractors out onto the highway. So we had to take side roads pretty much for like about 150 Ks, which added a lot of travel time to our final already long day, and we ended up in some really crazy roads. There was one section of road that was barely wide enough for 2 cars with a steep drop off on the edge, and you just kind of like teetering on the edge of this road, just almost kissing mirrors as you go past cars coming in the other direction. And I was driving at this point, and with anyone that's like jumped in the car on the other side of the road knows it takes a while to get your eye in on those sort of things. And I was pretty happy to get to the hotel, even though it was a bit of a dive.
Beardy, you said earlier that you were taking photographs of every rider in the peloton. Why is that? Why do you have to take a picture of everybody? I would have thought you'd just take the winners or those at the front of the peloton or front of the race.
In an individual time trial, you want to make sure you get the winner. That was and sometimes it's someone you don't expect, like the stage in Copenhagen, and I'd actually found a spot that I really liked, and you want to get a range of shots as well. Like it's no good just having a lot of the same image over and over again. So once Walt Van Aert went past and I saw he'd posted the fastest time, I was like, that's it, done.
Now, Beardy, tell me something. Do you ever, when you're in the race, do you ever just pinch yourself and go, I'm in the Tour de France. I'm part of this. I am in the biggest bike. Do you ever pinch yourself and go, I can't believe I'm here?
Yeah, absolutely. All the time it happens. Today, especially, like I was sitting there with a whole bunch of photographers, lenses pointed at the finish line, waiting to see, and I had no idea what was happening in the race. It was being explained to me in French, but I wasn't listening over the microphone. But I was just, getting my lens sorted, getting everything dialed in, ready to go. And then I looked and I could see this, it was pretty hot, so there was, this heat haze coming off the tarmac. And I could see in the distance this yellow shape coming towards the finish line, and then this just flapping bird coming, and I was like, "What is going on?" I was just expecting a bunch sprint. I didn't know that what was out in front or what the hell was going on in the race. And then all of a sudden, I see this person come out flapping across the line. I was like, "Whoa!" Take a million photos. And so yeah, that was a really crazy day. Not something that I expected at all. But yeah, a lot of times. It's super surreal being there. I know at the end when you're at on the Champs-Élysées and you're just looking down towards the Arc de Triomphe and they've got the planes flying overhead and you're like, wow, this is really amazing to be part of something like this. So yeah, it's pinch yourself moments on a daily basis, I'd say. I think tomorrow will be as well when we're out there on the cobbles chasing the riders around. It's going to be real hectic and real fun, but it's it was to not be here for 2 years and then come back and watch it on TV. It had been a long time since I watched it on TV. This is my 6th Tour de France. So it was really something to come back and immerse myself in it once more and realise just how it's very intense and it's super hard work. It's almost 11 o'clock and I'm still going, and I was up at 8 this morning. So it's a big day. Every day, but yeah, it's also super rewarding and you just get to see so much and be part of the whole Tour de France story. So definitely.
Beardy, can I ask you, when you get so close to the peloton, you obviously see if the riders are in good shape or they're suffering. Of the overall contenders, is it too early to tell who is in a good place and who is not?
Yeah, I don't think we've really tested them yet, and that sort of. I think tomorrow could be a potential case for some people to get sorted out. It's not really the place where GC riders like to be, bouncing along the cobblestones. People like Nairo Quintana, they're pretty light on the bike, and they must really, really dislike having to go and put themselves against the cobblestones. So that might be a shake-up. But at this point, Pogacar looks as cool and composed as he has in the last 2 years, so I'd say I'd say definitely be the favourite, no doubt.
And so it's going to be, what's your picks for stage 4, Beardy? It's obviously going to be a hectic stage to try to photograph as well and get around to all the different sectors.
Yeah, it is going to be super hectic. Got a pretty good plan, so I should be able to see about 3 or 4 cobble sectors if I'm lucky. I think Mathieu van der Poel is definitely the number one pick for tomorrow's stage. He's been pretty quiet in the race so far, and I think, him and Walter got such a rivalry going on that I think he'd really like to get one up and get that stage win. But yeah, Walt's in, incredible form as well, and also rides the cobbles like a beast. So who knows? Could be those two sparring it out to the finish.
And speaking of rivalry, what's it like in the media pack at the end? Are you throwing elbows and trying to get in there, or is there respect, or how does that work? And I'm sure it's changed so much over the years.
Yeah, it has. It's pretty good, actually. We're actually all pretty good mates, so we get on pretty well, and people are, there's definitely a bit of a rivalry, and I think that the healthy competition keeps the images to a high standard, and everyone is always striving to get the best stuff, and it is a little bit of a race within the race. But yeah, they've actually changed the rules a little bit since I was here last. We used to do a finish line, and then there was the potential to grab your cameras and run to where the winner was as fast as you could and get some close-up shots of them celebrating and with the team and that sort of stuff, and they've now not allowed that. And that was probably one of the tensest times because all the photographers would run to that, the winner, and there's riders coming in. It was really dangerous. It was very exciting, and I enjoyed it a lot. And I'm sad to see it go because I got some amazing images of like Caleb winning and Cavendish winning and all sorts of after a sprint there's just riders everywhere and you're like pushing around through trying to get to the spot, and then the team comes in and it's just like the energy, there's bottles of water getting thrown over people's heads and hugging, and it's super nice. But it was also a point where a lot of people clashed and it got a bit messy sometimes. So I think for safety, it's probably best that they don't allow us to do it anymore.
Media managers have a lot to answer for. I remember in the early days when I was covering the Tour as a reporter, we had access to the riders in team hotels. I've got images of Robbie McEwen, for example, half naked behind a shower screen after crashing on that particular day. His body, or the skin on his body, was completely torn off from the crash. We have images of all the big name riders at the time on massage tables in the breakfast room, but those days are gone because of the introduction and I guess the power of the media manager, and they've certainly changed the dynamic on how television reporters like myself and perhaps photographers like yourself cover the big bike race.
Yeah, and also with the COVID restrictions, it's pretty strict. That it's not a full-on bubble like they have in the past, but they really want to try and keep the riders as separate from everyone else as possible. They're wearing masks at all times. Pretty much no one's wearing masks anywhere we go anymore here, and we have to wear them around whenever we close to any riders. So that's sort of getting into hotel rooms and seeing riders, at close up. I don't think is happening as much as it was. Definitely.
All right, Beardy, stay with us. You're listening to the Domestiques. Listen, I want to touch on the subject of fashion horror shows in the peloton. Now, that is a pet topic of yours, Hollywood.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
Yes. Now, well, what I can say about the fashion so far, what things I've observed is the sock length has increased this year. I've noticed nearly all the riders are wearing extremely long socks, which impresses me greatly. I love long socks and long sleeve length. So sleeve length long just down near the elbow and nice long socks. They look magnificent. Obviously, the horror show has been well documented. That funny thing they wore in the TT. Was it Sagan one? It's some of those... What
the time trial sock?
Yeah, well, can you explain that to me, Matilda? Do you know anything more about it? I just thought it looked like a neck snood going
Mate,
wrong.
it's the future. Everything we've seen in the past, in the 80s, the 90s, it looked ridiculous. And then a few years later, that was all the trend. So essentially, it was Specializer's new TT helmet, which comes with a sock to keep the helmet in place so it doesn't move. So you remember, the TT in the Tour de France 2 years ago on, the Jumbo helmet coming off his head. To avoid those sort of situations. So it looked, I'm sure they were inspired by the Jedis, and it's to keep the helmet in place, but does look ridiculous.
I think I'd probably rather lose 7 or 8 seconds and look like an idiot. So I don't know. That's just me. I'd rather look a bit better. It did look ridiculous. It really did. But
Aero is everything. Aero is everything, mate.
Yeah, I know. Look good first, worry about everything else second is also very important. But I must say, it brings me great joy, what I mentioned before, to see Wout wearing the matching yellow bib instead of just the normal, like he was earlier, where he just had the black normal team bibs on. He actually had the full matching yellow bibs and jersey. It just looked sensational. I would like him to get the socks and shoes as well, because they've got the yellow helmet. It just is there anything more beautiful than just seeing the golden glow of yellow rolling through the peloton? You can see it everywhere. It looks magnificent. Hats off to
And especially when you're wearing the yellow and winning a stage. I love that. That is the absolute cream of the crop.
It really is. It really is.
I think Walt had a line at the end that said, the yellow jersey gives you wings. And I'm pretty sure Red Bull just paid him another $1 million into his account for that.
And the celebration.
If that had to do with that celebration, they said, go across the line, giving you wings, and there'll be another $1 million of euro into your account.
Okay, stage 5 is on later today. Cobbles. We have been looking forward to this particular stage for a long time. Can we expect a Paris-Roubaix type of stage, Tills, or something like a mini Paris-Roubaix?
There's nothing I feel for the peloton because the biggest issue is actually going to be the nervousness. What nervousness causes crashes, the stress in the peloton. It's like when every director is going to be giving every single rider the same instruction of get to the front, be at the front, and then you've got, over 100 riders trying to be at the front. That is actually, I think, what's going to cause more of the crashes is just the stress leading into it. In saying that, there are 11 sectors. But I'll be really interesting. At Paris-Roubaix, we saw how well Ineos did it. Everyone thought, it's 100 Ks before the sectors. We'll just relax, where Ineos ended up splitting the entire peloton. So I think certainly their team and Jumbo are the best placed. But there's 11 sectors, which is a lot. Like, that's a lot for things to go wrong. Van der Poel is my pick for that stage. Where is he? He is quiet. And I think he's still eyeing yellow. He's still within reach of ripping that off Walt. I don't think he'll allow him to. But at what point does Walt have to start looking after his GC riders? He has received enormous amounts of support from the team. He's in green, he's in yellow, he's won the stage. And I'm pretty sure the last sector comes with about 10K from the finish. So yeah, there's going to be some time gaps for sure if things go wrong. Hollywood, what do you reckon?
Yeah, look, I was going to say before you said it, I reckon Van der Poel will win tomorrow, and he's only I think he's sitting 5th, and yellow is still within reach. I don't know whether he'll get that, but I really do think he will win tomorrow. That's just my tip.
We normally see time gaps in the Paris-Roubaix, and we see the attrition rate is quite high. Riders fall out mid-race. It's not going to happen, I would suspect, unless they crash in this particular stage, but it's a different dynamic, don't you think, Tills?
Yeah, you're going to have to, just keep pedaling. You're going to have to get to the line. I think I'm sure there might be some rules that go into place that the time cuts might be a little bit more extended, but you're going to have to keep going because otherwise, your 3 weeks is obviously over. So this is certainly a stage to watch from the start for everyone. And yeah, will be probably the most exciting for within the next 2 weeks for sure.
This is the Domestiques, presented by Black Sheep Cycling.
Well, that's our program, the Domestiques, for episode 4. It's a shame we've lost Beardy. And you talked about some of the creations that you purchased in the past with Beardy when you were living at Bondi Tills in Sydney. Look, he is different. He's different. He's been to all the Grand Tours as far as I can tell, certainly the Giro. And I've actually done a tour with him, ridden a bike with him. He was my captain on an Après Velo tour through Tasmania twice earlier this year. So he can take photos and he can take you around the state of Tassie, his home state now. But you guys go way back?
I think what I would have liked to have said to Beardy, though, is just a bit of an ode to photographers. I don't think the general public probably realise just how important the role is that they play, even more so at the lower levels. So the levels that I'm at, if a bear shits in the woods and you don't see it, did it really happen? And that can feel that way a little bit with women's cycling because, the coverage is very limited. And so we truly rely on these photographers, and at times a lot of just their generosity in giving us these photos for free so we can promote what happened in the race. We can promote, for our sponsors, and they play one of the most important roles in cycling, and I think have played an enormous role in the evolution and promotion of women's cycling. And that can be from the local Glenvale, St Kilda crits all the way up to some of the World Tour races that don't have a lot of coverage. So huge ode to photographers. They play an enormously important role in cycling.
Well said, Tills. And don't forget, they sit on the back of a bike all day for 3 weeks. So take my hat off to Beardy McBeard and all the other media photographers on the big grand tours. Well, that's our program. Episode 4 is out of the way. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, if you like, about the Domestiques. We love you. And listen, Hollywood, we expect you to be a little bit more stress-free when we see you next. You're in Italy. I'm reminding you, you're in Italy. You've been in Greece. You've made it your way across the water to... Are you in Bari? I think you said the other day.
No. I flew into Bari and then I've driven an hour. I don't know where I am. I will find out and let you know where I am.
I reckon Ali's just put you in a cell there. That room's not looking real big.
Oh, no, it's tiny. What a tremendous
All right,
honeymoon.
and listen, just a little tip. Those microphone skills of yours, make sure they're improved for our next episode. Thanks for listening to the Domestiques. We'll talk to you very soon.
The Domestiques. The Domestiques by Black Sheep Cycling.